Welcome back to the ZERT Coffee and Chaos podcast, a show where we talk about anything and everything relating to what it means to be a survivalist and a prepared individual in today's society. I'm your host, Chris Bartagone, ZP002. Back with me on the show today, Paul Taylor, Mr. X. Paul, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me again.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you jumping on here kind of last minute. At the time of this recording, we are today is the 17th, so we are 4 days post an assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. This was not the intended episode to go up today, but this is where we are. I felt that it was important to get some information, or just to talk about some information, to put some information out, and to kind of I don't know, just chime in on, have a discussion on it and chime in on kind of my thoughts, your thoughts on the whole thing. If you are not aware of what happened, if you live on a rock, then Saturday, Butler, Pennsylvania, President Trump was having a rally, and shortly after he started speaking, a 20-year-old individual with a long gun attempted to shoot and kill the president. He was unsuccessful. Secret Service rushed to the stage. They got him out of there, and that was that. The counter snipers behind Trump took out the individual and ended the threat. Unfortunately, it did not go without casualty, though. So first and foremost, my thoughts go out to the family members of the gentleman who passed away. I believe he was a fire chief. I don't know if he was local to that area, and maybe I should have done some more information, but it was a tragedy nonetheless at what should have been obviously a peaceful rally for the president while he's campaigning. And so, there's a lot of information out there right now that people are talking about, and I want to make sure that they understand what's important. Sure, we can all have our own opinion, but somebody did lose their lives. Corey, I'm going to butcher his last name, but Comperatore was the name of the gentleman. He's a father and a husband, and that. So that senseless.
And from what I understand, I mean, his family was there.
Yes,
and I think
his family
when the
was
shooting
there.
happened, he actually protected. He covered. He got in front of his family, and they say that he actually, he saved their life because he took.
Right.
We always talk about, what we do for our family, and we do this. Well, this guy actually did it, which is, I mean, hero all the way around, not just to his family and loved ones, but the community. Right. And I mean, this is kind of what we talk about, we strive for, and that heroic action. And I mean, dude, that's, I'm not saying it's definitely a bad scenario, but when we all talk about, passed away in a car accident or this and that. I mean, I'm pretty sure that the family is very remorseful that they lost their father, but years down the road, they can say, yeah, my father was a hero. He actually saved our lives. And that's pretty amazing what this guy, gentleman
exactly.
did.
So that's the message that should be going out. If you're getting out there and you're putting information out on social media, start with that. Start with that piece first, before you start to pick apart everything else that you don't know, because that's something you do know. You do know that a father and a husband died protecting his family. So that's it. That I want to just make sure that gets out there. The rest of the stuff that everyone is commenting on is just, I mean, it's challenging to watch. I got back to my house and watched everything transpire, and I chose to watch it on CNN because that's where I go to watch stuff about politics because I want to hear what they're saying. And it's always good to understand what the other side is saying. So as I watched it, I went to bed the next day. I started to look on social media and I was like, holy crap. I've got so many people that are ballistic, sniper, security, and SOP experts all in one spot. This is amazing. I can get so much information right from here. Like it's almost like they work at all these areas and they're putting out information. Well, I mean, they're putting out the same place that Fox News, CNN, ABC, and then like we're all watching the same news. Like unless somebody's out there with a bat phone to the team on the ground saying, "Oh, hey, Bill, let me tell you what's happening here. Make sure you put it up on your social media page so everybody knows." It's like, come on, guys, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing?
Yeah, it's
You like how I
crazy
whisper
how
there?
when a video comes out, you got everybody and their buddy posting on the exact same thing with their opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And and it's funny that you should talk about like everybody's an expert. And I'm not saying I'm an expert by any means, but I've seen some posts where they'll write, if you're not a sniper or a counter sniper, if you're not, you keep your mouth shut. And I've gone through some schooling and I've done missions. I've not only trained, but I've executed overseas and I've taken shots. And I still feel that I'm not in a position yet that I should be posting on social media because I don't know all the facts.
Right.
I wasn't there. It's like we live in a world that we jump to conclusions, and that's on both sides of the aisle.
Of course.
It's on one side to another. Everybody always jumps to conclusions. It's like, why don't we just sit back every now and then and just gather some facts, sit back, relax until we get information. And granted, we have a First Amendment right that we can post whatever we want on social media or wherever. But man, sometimes we just look like a fool. We look like an idiot.
That's for sure.
Both sides, man.
Yeah.
And I just sometimes I get
right.
And there's nothing wrong with just scrolling.
No,
certain
that's
people
true.
with certain opinions, and then they're your friends or acquaintances, or I don't know, I'm going to go there, members of ZERT, whatever. You got these people everywhere, not these people in a bad way, but sometimes, man, you just got to relax, take a step back and watch the circus and figure out.
Exactly. Observe. Listen, observe and gather information. Here's the thing. I mean, without writing it on a whiteboard or etching it in stone, I think it's pretty clear where I sit on the political spectrum. I will be the first to tell you that if there was a different candidate prior to Saturday the 13th on the Republican ticket, I would have probably voted for that person, right? I loved when President Trump was in office. I wish he was a little bit more reserved at the time. And if he was, he may still be president right now. This new right movement, not the old Republicans, is obviously something that some people can gravitate to and some can't. But I got to tell you that after Saturday, there's nobody I want more as the president for the next 4 years at this point. But here's the other thing. I will call out the right for being a bunch of assholes just as much as I'll call out the left for being a bunch of assholes. I want less government overreach. Leave my rights alone. Leave me alone. Take your fucking taxes and shove them up your ass. And because taxation is theft and I'm a free American. So that's where I sit. And, leave my guns, leave my land, leave my property alone. It's not yours, it's mine. And you don't get to take it and you don't get money from it. And I think what really did it for me, obviously, we all watched the debate. I watched the interview with Biden after the debate, the big boy interview or the high stakes interview. And obviously it's clear that he's not the guy. And then the situation happened with Trump, and he goes down, he gets swarmed by Secret Service who surround him and shield him. And this man does make a hilarious comment. I did laugh when he talked about, hold on a minute, let me just get my shoes. And what's funny is there is a video clip where he does not get his shoes, and one of the female agents on the stage throw his shoes off the stage. But he gets up, and again, they're guarding him and they're shielding him. So they all have their arms kind of like a shield wall around him, right? And you just see him fighting them for a second. And I'm like, what the hell is this guy doing? And like, I wasn't, and he's fighting to get his fist. And we've all seen it. So this is not news to anybody, but this is just my thought process, fighting to get his hand raised and throw a fist up in the air in just sheer defiance, like F you, fuck you. And
I think he used a different F word. I think it was
well,
fight.
He did. He used the word fight. And it sent chills down my spine. It sent chills down my spine and kind of got me choked up because everybody in the crowd was kind of hush, and then they erupted. And they erupted chanting USA. And man, I got to tell you, Paul, I was taken back by it. And that was Saturday night. And then Sunday, you open up social media and I'm just like, holy shit, what happened? what happened?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy that we all talk about, what we look for, and you got it on both sides. It's like, what do you look for? What do you look for in a leader? It's like, man, I want somebody who goes up there and lead. I don't want somebody that cowers in a moment. And I tell you what, no matter what side of the aisle you're on or what your opinion is, man, that man did not cower. He
no,
he in the face of, and anytime we're talking, I use a lot of analogies and a lot of quotes and a lot of things I use from the military, from great leaders that say great things. And one of the quotes we always say is, everybody wants to do a badass until it's time to do badass things.
Right.
Well, that was pretty badass because, I've been overseas and I've been scenarios where people will hide and cower and get behind walls and do this and that. And Trump he was like, dude, he wasn't trying to get behind a wall. He was pissed. He was upset. And rightfully so. And that could be used in so many different ways. I mean, it might not just be, that shot to me represented so many things about this country and about the state that we're in right now, that somebody would be willing to take a shot at the president of the United States. And, we teach a firearm safety rule, know your target and what's beyond it. They had no remorse for anybody in that crowd.
No.
And that's, and certain people forget about that stuff, like you said earlier. And it's just a it's, we always talk about the state of this country and for what other reason, but man, it's just, and to me, like you said, sometimes I wish, and we can wish all we want, you're never going to have that perfect president, but I said it before. I don't care what Trump says on Twitter. I don't follow Twitter. I don't get on there. So it would be nice that he would not use Twitter as much, but he doesn't want that. He's like, hey, this, I care about how this country is ran. I want leadership. I want that guy up there that, he might not say the right stuff, but actions speak louder than words. And when you look at the state of this country 4 years ago, compared to, the economy or whatever you want to say, and I hear a bunch of, and I have liberal friends on social media that I haven't, I haven't blocked, and I like to see their opinion. But everything's always like, well, Trump might do this. I'm not talking about mights or you're scared that he's going to do that. It's like, what has he done?
Right.
What has he done for this country to advance it? And now, I was watching CNN this morning, just like you, and CNN had a thing on there where they're afraid that the right is going to riot and they're going to go out there and burn cities down because of this Trump assassination attempt. It's Wednesday.
Right. Right. Exactly.
It's literally Wednesday because we're not, I'm not saying I'm always a law abiding citizen. And I'm not saying there's not a time or a place, if Lord forbid, and we discussed this. I mean, the actions or the consequences of Trump actually, if maybe Trump didn't turn his head, who knows where we would be right now.
Yeah.
But it's still an assassination attempt.
Right.
You know, actions have consequences, and dude, we're at a place right here in this country that I don't think it's a good place, and it's getting worse.
No.
And who's
Yeah.
been in charge? You know,
Yeah,
and it seems
exactly.
like everything's always, you know, I'm on a side. I vote a certain way. I'm probably considered far right, even though I don't consider myself far right. And I've got all these guns, you know, and all this stuff. You don't see me out there doing crazy stuff, you
No,
know.
no.
And it's just, it's mind boggling to me right now that we're at a state that we're in right now.
Right.
But
what is your first official, well, no, what is your first thought about and I guess it's hard, before I ask that question, it's hard to really put some of this stuff out there because none of us were there. And the only thing we are seeing is from the media. Okay. So I just kind of want to make that statement right now. Any of this stuff that we're going to talk about today is based on what we know, and what we know is from the media, right? So none of this is firsthand knowledge. So we know that it's 150 yards away because obviously people went to Google Earth and they were able to get an overhead view of where it was and guess figure out the distance. So we know that. We don't. So I don't know, and I'm not sure if you've heard it or not. But were the guys, the 2-man team on the roof, were they Secret Service, or was that outsourced SWAT, or do you know any of that?
I don't think I know. No, I don't know any of that. That's a good question. From the stuff that I'm reading, it was a Secret Service team, but I mean, do you believe everything that you see on social media? You know, that might have just been an assumption.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I mean, these are all things that, you know, I have read, and this is how the SOPs usually turn out is these things are handled by multiple agencies. And usually when multiple agencies get involved, there are communication issues because agencies aren't used to working together. So there's probably, you know, you cordon off an area, you know, there's security and there's different levels, and certain, you know, there's not enough Secret Service to basically handle the whole area. So they hire local police for a certain, you know, outside a certain radius, and so on and so on and so on. So from what I understand, there were different agencies there that was handling that, but that's how it always is. You know, I
Right.
can tell you from my experience in the military, we would have dignitaries show up to our fire bases, to our camps, and we had to basically lock it down. Well, as an SF team, you don't have enough guys to do that.
Right.
So, you know, we would have regular Army. We would even use Afghans in certain areas a little bit further out, you know, for certain levels of security. So, you know, it's guaranteed they do the same thing. So,
yeah.
So with that, of course, there's always, there's teams, there's units that don't train together.
Right.
And I'm not saying they're not on the right frequencies, but certain people, certain teams have different SOPs.
Right.
And there should be some type of maybe training or an event or a practice before, but some people don't always have time to do that. So you take it for what it's worth and you go out and, you know, we're always in a situation where, you know, we get very lackadaisical in our everyday, you know, if you drive the same convoy every day and take the same route, nothing happens. You get very lackadaisical in your planning, your route planning. And overseas, you're never supposed to take the same route. Well, nothing happens, so why not take the same route? And then finally, they get to know your routine. And I'm not saying this 20-year-old kid did research or not, who knows? But the bad guys get to know your routine, and all of a sudden they put an IED and your vehicle blows up. Whose fault is that? Yours, because you got lackadaisical in your training, your preparation, and your plan. So I think with that, and like you said, we don't know a lot of stuff, but we can kind of gather opinions, and I refrain from putting opinions on social media, but we did talk about this today, this morning on the phone for about an hour while I was at the gym, and decided to do this podcast. So in saying that, I feel that it's not a time or a place just to throw any individual under the bus. And I see a lot going on. And saying that, there are people that need to be held accountable and responsible, because
Right.
that is a complete lack of what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, listen, obviously the terminology that's getting thrown out there is DEI. And obviously it's this, diversity thing that, I don't know, is rule of the land or law of the land. And obviously what that means is, you're not always the qualified person, but you check the box, whether it's minority, gender, that's why you get the position. So obviously everybody is commenting on the one person that seems to be making obviously all of the memes out there, right? The shorter, dark-haired Secret Service, female Secret Service agent who in pictures is cowering behind the other agents, and the president has a problem reholstering her firearm, is not, I mean, whatever her body type is what it is. I mean, I ask anybody that's commenting on her appearance to stop for a second and look in the mirror. And if you're not in peak physical form, maybe don't talk about that. Just a suggestion that's coming from me, but I don't, that's just me. Listen, she can't holster a firearm. I get it. Whether it was a stressful situation, you've talked about fog of war, does training fix that? Probably. Should she be in the position? Probably not. Should she be held responsible for that? No. She got the job because someone allowed her to get the job. The person who put the DEI is the person in question. You can leave that Secret Service agent out of it. There's no reason to come after her. Let's go after the person who hired her, because that person should be removed. There's also speculation out there of why there was no security, if you will, on the roof that's 150 yards away, that has an elevated position to where the president is sitting or standing. I mean, that's a valid question. Like, that's what needs to be talked about. The information coming out from the director of the Secret Service, who I guess was head of security for like Pepsi or something before that, is that it was a slope problem. Like, sloped roof problem. And there are literally people, juxtaposing the pictures of the slope that the snipers were on, which was more of a slope, than the almost flat roof this guy was laying on. So what is it? Here's my problem, and I think either you and I talked about it, or Jamie and I talked about it. You can be wrong and admit when you're wrong. But if you're wrong and then lie about being wrong, you're not only wrong, but you're a liar also. And then when you get called out on it,
you look like an idiot,
and you just look like the biggest asshole ever.
Yeah. Yeah. Who did she consult before she said about this whole sloped roof thing? Yeah, I mean, this is an excuse, and it's like, oh yeah, we need a cover for action here. And then as soon as she says that, you've got every competitive PRS shooter on the face of the earth,
oh my God,
posting a picture of themselves shooting off of a sloped roof.
Right.
I practiced and learned shooting in sniper school, off of a sloped roof. I mean, what are you talking about here?
Yeah.
Where did you, maybe at Pepsi, they didn't worry about that stuff, but
no. So exactly. So she should be held, accountable, right?
Well, she's probably one of them.
Yeah, definitely one of them. you and I talked about earlier about the two-man team, and I don't know if it was I'm assuming it was a two-man team that took the actual shot. And there's a lot of speculation going out that speculation and also interviews. There's interviews with just citizens who saw this dude walking through a field with a rifle and climbing a roof. They alerted the police and not much was done. But then there's more reports now saying the police did attempt to engage with the shooter, and an officer climbed the roof, and the shooter turned and pointed his rifle at him. And then the officer went back down. I don't know why. The guy turned, and that's when he took the shots. Now, where am I hearing that? Well, I'm hearing that from the same place everybody else is, the internet, the news channels. I don't know how much of it is accurate or not. If that's what happened, then, where was the failure at that point? The two-man team allegedly had eyes on this interaction and this shooter for a period of time before he took the shot. And then he took the shot, and that's when they engaged and took him down. I don't know how to feel about that one. I mean,
yeah, if you look at the time frame from, and everybody's recordings and stuff from the time he took not one shot, several shots,
right?
Because I think two other people were wounded, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. The one gentleman was killed, and then of course President Trump was wounded, and one of those shots that went through his ear might have been the same shot that wounded somebody. He took multiple shots, at least 3. It was pretty quick.
It was
and if you've got, if you've done any type of training with your rifle on a bipod or tripod or anything, I mean, it takes a while to look, observe. We talk about OODA loop all you want, observe, orient that gun, decide what to do, and then act, and that's when you do it. So that's a process that takes time. So he's got to be in the vicinity of and I have my opinions of what happened, and my opinions are based on doing that stuff, doing counter sniper work, seeing the fog of war, knowing how long certain things take. Add that communication factor with people that want to, be in charge and be on the radio, and you're waiting for a call, and certain agencies working together, and you're waiting. And, from what I understand, the sniper on the roof, the bad guy, like, he was on top of a building that there were police officers in. I've been in situations in training and in combat where we got shot at, and before certain people that were in charge were allowed to open me up, they're like, well, we got friendlies over there. I'm like, I know exactly where the friendlies are, and they're not the ones. So there's always that hesitation of making sure that there's not, friendly fire, and stuff. And all it takes is one person to question something to any type of hesitation, and that might be all a bad guy needs to, pull a shot off for 2. Like I said, we weren't there, but I can tell you, based on events that I've been in, whether in combat or training, and I don't want to say I've seen it all, but when you're doing infantry, sniper, assaulter, being a ranger in a Green Beret for 20 years, you have a little bit more experience seeing. And then I've worked with units, and, almost everybody under the sun, from conventional forces to SEAL Team 6 and Delta. I've seen what right looks like, and I also seen what wrong looks like. And I can't say that I'm going to sit here today and I'm going to say that I'm not surprised these things happen, because I've seen the bad stuff happen, and I've seen the bad stuff happen because of there's a difference between people, individuals, teams, organizations that are trained and the ones that are untrained. And you can clearly see in certain things that happen, people are untrained. And whether that's on them or on higher budget cuts, because that happened to us in the military, funding, organization, the lack of a comms plan, rehearsals, there's so many things involved in something like that. And then so many times where nothing happens and you get relaxed, and then all of a sudden something happens and nobody knows what to do. And or there's always, I don't want to say there's questioning, but too many times somebody's asking for permission. And I'm not saying that sniper asked for permission to shoot, but I can completely understand. And if you guys ever looked through a long range scope and you look at the size of that scope, there's a pretty good chance that was a 5-25 on that freaking rifle. And if he had 5 or if he had 25 power jacked up on that thing, and his spotter said, "Hey, I got a guy on the rooftop," and he's trying to look at that scope, it's really easy to bypass an object on a roof because you don't have that field of view.
Right.
And from the reports that I see, of course, they're coming from social media, is the fact that they said there are eyewitnesses that said he had to come off scope a couple times just to orient that gun in the right direction. And maybe that was all the time that this kid needed. We don't know.
Right. We don't know.
And the fact is, it's hard to say. But the thing is, it's like you see so many people jump into conclusions.
Right.
And,
let me go back to
the whole holster thing earlier.
Right.
Man, you get in a firefight and you try to holster your gun. It's
right.
crazy.
But before we get into the holster, let's go back for a second. You just brought up a good point. About taking that shot, or obviously if there was the SOP and maybe he didn't have the green light. That is being talked about. Allegedly, he made a statement saying he wasn't given the green light to take the shot. You talked about a story earlier about where you ran into that situation. And I asked about the outsourcing. So if that was a police SWAT team sniper, their SOPs are probably a lot different when it comes to using their firearm, right? I mean, you can't, and I'm going to say this with a kind of a loose assumption here. A lot of times police officers don't just draw their gun and fire without getting into some kind of altercation first, or an acorn hits a windshield. But maybe that training is what took over and why the shot wasn't taken first. If you see the presidential candidate being aimed at with a rifle, I don't think you wait for that. Again, we can't say it, but do you? And so here's the reason. Do you wait for that? Go ahead, take the shot, or do you just do it? And I mean, no one's going to go verify if the guy is, hey, are you a bad guy? Like, that's not happening. The only thing you're waiting for is to see if he takes a shot. And if he took that shot and Trump's head was turned like it was, or the guy was a better shot, could you imagine where we would be today? And yeah, especially if all of the things we talked about leading up to that question that I asked was in fact true. A police officer walked up the ladder and then went back down because he was scared, or not scared because he had a gun pointed at him. And these other guys had eyes on this person for at least 3 minutes prior. What? So the question, would you wait or would you take that shot to eliminate the threat?
I know what I would do based on the training that I've gotten, but people get different training. And
Very
saying
true.
that, so we, I spent a certain time in a certain organization, a company, and in special forces, and our job was direct action. And we would set up, we get the mission, do all of our planning, and go and basically do a raid on an objective. And part of that raid was, we would come in and we would, take our lead team of assaulters, and we'd set them up so they're strategically placed outside of a building. And usually when we did these hits, there was a countdown, and that countdown would go from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And part of that countdown was the initial charge on the door was to blow. And I'm not sitting here to talk tactics or give away SOPs, but the charge was blown on a certain number. Snipers would take out their key enemy personnel on a certain number. That was the way that we trained, and we were very good at it. So by the time we entered the building, there was that fog of war on their side, that chaos of things happening and everybody's running around. Well, we trained on it, so we were used to it because we were used to doing that so many times, and we took that overseas. Well, imagine a sniper team. You don't just have one role, and when you're so used to training in a certain way, waiting to be told there's a countdown. I'm not saying if it's right or if it's certain or if it's wrong, or you're told in training scenarios when to fire, that becomes muscle memory. That becomes unconscious competence. You were waiting for the call. And and there's certain organizations out there, and I know this because I've seen it overseas, where you're out there working with regular Army, and there are point men, and I'm not throwing any regular Army units on the bus. I'm not going to call them out. But there were point men out there in Iraq and Afghanistan that weren't allowed to fire their guns, even when they're shot at. They had to wait until their PL gave them permission. And we're sitting there doing missions, and it's like, dude, why are you not firing? And they're like, my PL hasn't given me permission yet. So if that stuff happens in the Army overseas in gunfights, I can pretty much guarantee you that there are micromanaging leaders in these organizations that say you don't fire until I tell you, because they want control. And I can understand a certain small aspect. A small aspect is in certain scenarios, just listen for a second. They're trying to avoid friendly fire. They're trying to make sure, hey, is that guy dude, we got cops over there. I think it's been verified that there were police officers over there. They wanted to verify the fact that this dude is not a cop. We don't want to just shoot somebody. And I think it was a little bit too late. And like we said, I agree with you in this. It failed. The process failed. The process needs to be changed. But based on their training and their SOPs and their rehearsals, I mean, we can clearly say for that to happen, there were definitely people did things wrong, and things probably need to change. And thank goodness President Trump didn't get shot, but people did get shot, which there are.
Right. And if more than anything, more than the former president and current candidate getting shot, like the failure to act did cause the death of an innocent person, and someone needs to be held accountable for that. And I'm sure someone will. If it comes out that they did have eyes on, they did not communicate, and they could have taken the shot but didn't, there should be some definite criminal charges that are brought up against the person who stopped the course of action to take place. That's my opinion. Whether you agree or whether you don't agree, that's the beauty of this country and the beauty of being free people, that we can agree and disagree.
Oh yeah, heads should roll, but and this isn't a but. I hate saying the word but, because to me the but means, I agree with you, but on the other hand, and I'm going to bring up January 6th and real quick.
Yeah,
and
I mean, it's important.
January, there, and I'm not saying Trump went and asked for the National Guard, because it's all mixed up. Trump couldn't ask for but the thing is more security was asked for. More security was asked for, and somebody denied that. Somebody denied that security. Things happen. You can call it an insurrection. You can call it. It's hard to be an insurrection when nobody's armed.
Right.
But
and the person that denied it
held responsible.
Well, and the person that denied it was caught on tape saying, "I should have asked for more," and they did not. But I'm glad that you brought that up, Paul, because Trump has been the evil mastermind of January 6th based on a statement he made, right? Well, I just happen to have a statement that was made that I'd like to share here. And then I'll read it for those that are listening. I have one job, quote, I have one job, and that's to beat Donald Trump. I'm absolutely certain I'm the best person to be able to do that. So we're done talking about the debate. It's time to put Trump in a bullseye, end quote. That quote, as you see it on the screen, was made by Joe Biden. It's time to put Trump in a bullseye. And then so many days later, Trump is shot at. Should criminal charges be brought against Joe Biden for inciting an assassination attempt? I mean, and that's a rhetorical question to everybody out there. You can ask that one to anybody who thinks Trump is responsible for January 6th. The follow-up question to that one is, and we can talk about it if you want, but the follow-up question to that is, if Trump said those words, take that exact quote right here, put it up on the screen again, and if that was in reverse, where I'm the guy to beat Joe Biden, we're done talking about the debate, it's time to put Biden in a bullseye, and then that happened, do you think that Donald Trump would not be on trial immediately right now? No due process? He'd probably just go right to jail. I mean,
and there'd be riots.
And there would be riots. Exactly. The entire country would be burning right now because of that. I mean, they blamed him for January.
My place wouldn't be burning, I guarantee.
Well, right. They blamed him for January 6th for those statements. There have been numerous videos out there right now from multiple Democrats saying Trump needs to be taken out. He's a threat to our democracy. He is a threat. And then you got somebody saying, you got the president of the United States saying we need to put a bullseye on the guy. To me, that is pure hatred. I mean, that right there you should be held accountable for that.
I disagree, and I'm going to say I disagree because I don't think he meant for somebody to put a bullseye.
Well, listen,
just like I don't think that President Trump at the time meant to go to the Capitol and charge it. I mean, I realize words have.
Yeah, go ahead. So I get what you mean, but my point is, if one person can get strung up for making a statement than the other person, whether you mean it or not, right? And you're not wrong. But what's funny is they gave Joe Biden a chance to tell everybody, oh no, I didn't mean that. He had to do an interview to say, I didn't mean that. It doesn't matter what you meant. It matters how people took it. And apparently one person took it pretty literally.
Yeah, I agree with that, but also I don't, because, I could say, we can't be held responsible for what somebody thinks we mean, and that goes for Trump and Biden, both. It's, I'm not going to prosecute Biden because I feel he's an idiot and says stupid things. That bullseye might be an analogy where we need to focus on, not putting him down as in shooting him, but all of our effort to make sure that he's not the president of the United States again,
but use the right words.
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree with that. Completely. But you can't, the problem that I have is how the media, how certain followers turn this stuff around, how Biden can basically do the exact same thing. Say, I think Biden said something worse. I look at what Trump said, and if I dig deep, could I possibly turn that around? Yes. But then again, January 6th, I mean, and you might disagree with me, the people thought they were getting a free tour of the Capitol. Now, do I not feel that they're idiots? Yes, they were. Everybody that went into that building was a freaking idiot.
Yeah, of course.
But some of them were, they're followers. They opened the doors. Now, did people get hurt? And is that unfortunate? Absolutely.
Right.
Just like the other day, but nobody showed up at that Capitol with a gun. That was an insurrection. I don't know. Maybe it's just my definition of insurrection, but
Well,
it's the media that's the problem that turns all this stuff around. And then it's certain followers that, before they get all the facts about a case, that's happening or
well, yeah.
somebody, then they burn the country down. It's like, can we
Right.
just sit back
Yeah.
and just wait for things to happen? And I realize that sometimes we gotta, stand up for what we believe, and that gets the ball rolling, but it's not rioting. We have, we are allowed to do certain things, and we're allowed to stand up in front of people with our signs and disagree and this and that. But to go out and riot and burn down communities, your community, yeah. If that would have happened to could you imagine? Let's take this back a step.
Sure.
Could you imagine President Obama running for office and somebody shoot him in the ear? Holy freaking cow. And that's not supposed to be something on race or anything else, but I guarantee you, you can't tell me this country wouldn't be burning right now. But that's
God,
the
yeah.
difference between one side and another. And
Right.
and I'm not saying that people on the right now aren't blowing, because you got people posting stupid stuff on social media, and it's like, dude, settle down and just wait
Yeah,
for
of
things to
course.
happen.
Right.
But there's a difference between your First Amendment right, and it is a First Amendment right. We're allowed to say anything, no matter how stupid it is.
Right.
We're premature.
Well, just to follow up on that, then and then anybody could say anything back to you, just as stupid as
Exactly.
it is, right? So
Yep. And that's how we get in these debates, and people argue and block each other, and
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's funny because I think every company out there, ZERT included, posted the picture of Donald Trump with his fist in the air on Saturday. And
I don't think every company did. I think it depends on what side.
Well, true, but when any of the companies that are obviously in
most
the
gun companies posted it. Yep, you got that right.
And it's, I mean, the last time I checked, it was still going on the ZERT page. And people were still obviously commenting on it. It was still being shared. Maybe not as much as obviously it was right off the bat. We did put a couple of posts up after that, but there was some comments, and it got crazy in the comment section. So if you're not following the ZERT Facebook page, head over, or the ZERT Instagram, head over, and you can see some of those. But it got crazy in there. And what I did notice is there was a pretty large group of people that unfollowed the page after that. And that's fine, right? That is their prerogative, whether they were people that didn't want to see political stuff, whether they were people on the left. And I don't think I responded to any of them. I mean, there's a lot of them. I responded to one, and the person, they did not follow the page, but they basically said something about like, no, being defiant is what Teddy did. And he was talking about Teddy Roosevelt, I guess, when there was an attempt on his life. And he made points to say, he calmed the crowd and make sure that the shooter didn't get injured, and then continued on with the conference or the press conference or the rally or whatever. And I said, well, the response back was, okay, well, the crowd had nothing to do with the shooter being shot and killed by a sniper 150 yards away. So, I'm not sure how that plays into it. But, the crowd couldn't keep him calm. Sniper shot him in the face. So I appreciate your opinion, but I just don't, thanks for being here, and I appreciate your opinion. I just don't think it's
you're comparing apples to oranges.
And so his rebuttal to that was, one guy went and played golf and the other didn't. I said, well, hold on, wait a minute. So are we done talking about the point that you tried to make is not valid? I said, okay, so then let's move to the next point. Please show me proof where Trump went and played golf after he left the rally Saturday night or Sunday. Like, That's my problem with anybody that you get into a debate with. If you call them out on a fact, they deflect to the next thing that's not a fact. And it's just a giant round robin game of what are we going to talk about? And, going back to the interview with Stephanopoulos and Biden, where I think he did a great job, is he didn't let him do that. And I try to not let people do that when they start to talk about what Trump did. He's the biggest threat to democracy. Okay, well, he was the president for 4 years. Well, please tell me how our democracy was threatened in those 4 years. And you're basing it off of what? One comment, a comment that is probably taken out of context about some kind of dictator thing. Like, come on, what are we doing here? Every politician lies, whether you're Donald Trump, whether you're Joe Biden, whether you're Barack Obama. It is just, if I think they make you commit to that when you take office in politics. I will lie about things. I mean, you could be wrong, just don't be a liar, because nowadays it's on the internet and we'll go back and we'll find it.
I very rarely ask you questions on this show, and I'm going to ask you one real quick. And we talked about this a little earlier. I'm going to kind of put you on the spot. And one of the facts that I think we've seen from the shooter is this 20-year-old had a certain T-shirt on, and that T-shirt was a company. I think it was Demolition Ranch, and the owner of that company came out and gave a statement saying, "Hey, man, anybody can buy this T-shirt." What if the shooter would have had a ZERT T-shirt on?
Oh, God.
What if he would have got a membership two months ago? No big deal. And was wearing that T-shirt. What type of effect do you think that would have had?
I mean,
and anybody can honestly buy that thing. When
you're right. Anybody can obviously join ZERT. I apologize for going here. we have policed our own in the past. And we will continue to do so. When you join ZERT, you get access to a network of Facebook groups, and each of those groups is based off of the state that you're in, and then a squadron. And there are POCs and moderators that obviously monitor the pages and the posts that go up. There is a policy and procedures. There is acceptable things that can go up. We do not really allow political talk on those pages because it is polarizing. And I mean, they tell you that, there's a couple things you shouldn't talk about, and that's politics and religion. I'll add sports teams to that because it's your opinion and I'm not going to change it. Has there been a situation in the past where someone was wearing a ZERT shirt or a member of ZERT and they were in the news? Yes, there is. Anybody can join. We hope that we get good people that join this community and join ZERT. If he had been wearing a ZERT shirt, I could imagine the stuff on the pages today. We would have definitely gained some 15 minutes of
ZERT would definitely be on the map more than it was before.
Obviously, we don't condone anything like that. This organization is about bringing like-minded people together to share knowledge and training, and that training comes in all different shapes and sizes, and the knowledge comes in all shapes and sizes, and on top of it you get cool discounts to certain companies out there, and they continue to grow. But that's what it's about. All I can say is I probably would have had the same reaction that Matt from Demolition Ranch had of, oh shit, like, my God, that is, it sucks.
Start typing up a statement.
Right. Exactly. You've got to get ahead of it. But I don't know that there's much to get ahead of. Take that a step further. If he was wearing Nikes, do you think Nike has to worry about anything? His shirt shouldn't have mattered. And the fact that the media made a point to point it out only shows that they hate us. They hate our industry. They hate what we stand for and that what we like. And that's the message, because they didn't talk about his fucking pants. They didn't talk about his socks, and they didn't talk about anything else he was wearing except the shirt, because it said Demolition Ranch on it. And that's the
I
problem.
disagree with you there. What else are they talking about?
I don't,
They're
about his
talking about the
clothing.
rifle that he shot. And now
Oh,
we're back
well,
on the agenda with the AR. Could you
right.
imagine if he would have had a bolt action rifle with the scope on it, the damage that he would have caused with
Oh,
maybe,
yeah.
but it's all this AR-15. I mean, there are so many more accurate rifles out there than an AR with bullets that do a lot more damage.
Oh, yeah.
But now we're back on this AR thing, and it might not be talked about now, but I guarantee you that'll be back on a certain agenda because of how
Yeah.
deadly the AR is.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
but like
obviously,
you said, it meets a certain side's agenda. It's got nothing to do with, everybody keeps referring to this rifle as a weapon. That rifle wasn't a weapon; it was a tool.
right.
It was a tool used by a bad dude trying to do a bad thing with a bad
Right.
heart and an evil mind.
Right.
But
Right. At the end of the day, there is a lot to kind of unwrap with what happened. As we move further away from it, you're going to hear less and less about it. Obviously, you heard about it Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday, Trump announces his VP. And that's where the focus is now. Now the Democrats are focused on picking apart the guy who's going to stand up and debate with cackling Kamala. I mean,
the amount
that's
of
their focus
that I saw that was off the whole Trump assassination attempt, and then progressed to this woman that was drunk when she sang the national anthem.
Oh
I
my
mean,
God. Yeah.
who cares about that? But
Yeah.
anything that draws attention away from
Yep.
a major thing that just happened. I mean, that's what's
Yeah.
crazy to me.
Right.
But on the other side, it's like it's like anytime something happens, depending on what side you're on, they're either putting fuel on that fire and making that fire a lot big. I'm not saying a lot bigger than it is, but they're just milking that thing for all it's worth. Or on the other side of the aisle, let's try to smother that fire as quickly
Right.
as possible.
Right.
And that's the problem that I have in this country right now. Is if it was equal, I'd have no complaints at all. And maybe there's people on the one side that think it's equal. Well, you're allowed to think that. I'm allowed to think what I think, but I just think
Exactly.
like if it was truly equal and both candidates got the equal amount of coverage when it comes to all the good and all the bad, I wouldn't have a problem with who the next president is.
No.
I just don't see it.
No, you're not going to see it. And unfortunately, that's just where we are right now. Going back to the quote about the bullseye, I mean, if it wasn't bad, if he didn't mean it, why did he take down the tweet on Twitter, Twitter, X, whatever the hell it's called? Obviously, it's optics, right? It looks bad, and he looks bad enough right now where you just solidified this guy's win for the most part. I mean, obviously, we still have a couple of months until election time. The best way to secure the president or the former president's win in November, folks, is to get out there and vote. And that's just obviously, if you are voting for Trump, get out there and vote for Trump. If you're voting for Biden, listen, I mean, I don't know why. If the last 4 years haven't told you how bad it is, the last 4 weeks should have. So make the right choice for America and leave personality out of it and vote policy. That's what's important. Why do I like the fact that he chose this 39-year-old? Well, he's young. This will be one of the youngest VP candidates ever. And if he's got good policies, that's where I'm all about that. So
I
that's
like
the way we secure
he
the win.
picked a vice president candidate that was an anti-Trump guy.
Well, that
Like I mean, that's like pretty commendable that this guy, and you got all these guys during or all these individuals during the Republican convention that were, now granted, they're all going to band together. We understand
of course. Right.
But the fact is like you said, and a lot of people, I think a lot of people agree with you, and they say that despite who Biden is and what he's done and his attitude and his, they're not gonna vote on Trump because of policy. And I can understand, I truly can understand the fact that people that are Democrats believe a certain thing, their beliefs in abortion and certain policies, and Republicans vote one way. I mean, my thing is, man, I just look at the way this country was ran and our state and the economy 4 years ago
Right.
and at where we are now,
Right.
and there's not people in the streets fighting and burning this country down because Biden's president. And we're like, okay, we're going to wait to vote. But as soon as
Right.
Trump got into office 4 years ago, and I don't know if everybody remembers this, man, as soon as he was elected, there's individuals that rioted and tried to burn this country down. And
Yeah.
dude, accept the fact that the country spoke. They voted. They
Yeah.
get out there
Yeah.
in 4 years and vote. But
That's it.
and it's coming from one side of the aisle. How do I know
Right.
that? Because the right didn't do it when Biden got elected, and I was
No.
angry.
Oh, I was angry too. And the
But the
right
thing
didn't
is
do it when Trump was convicted of 34 mystery felonies. And the right didn't do it when Trump was indicted over here and indicted over there. I mean, we don't.
And the right didn't do it when Trump was shot. Because despite
Right.
what you think, he was shot. That guy didn't miss. That
No, he did
that
not.
20-year-old sniper did not miss. He shot Trump. Now,
Right.
granted, at the very last second, Trump turned his head. And
Yes.
and you watch the videos, but that shot still hit him. And I might, I still want to see a picture of this rifle because I think that might
Yeah.
explain a lot. But from everything that I've seen, it looks like it's an AR-15 with iron sights. I
Yeah.
can make that shot. But guess
Yeah.
what? I'm a trained shooter. Somebody
Well,
that's inexperienced, you're looking at, did he have a bipod? Did he have support? Was he
probably had a
using his
vertical foregrip.
magazine? He probably had a vertical foregrip that messed him up. Don't if he had a vertical foregrip on his gun, I don't think that a certain vertical foregrip should be sold ever again.
Right.
And hopefully Cal's listening to this.
No.
But there's just like you said, there's so many what ifs, but let's not jump to conclusions.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
wait and hear this out. And I mean, common sense and be smart. Might there be a time and a place to riot? I mean, I can't imagine anybody back in 1776 thought that this country was going to go to war against Britain. And I'm not saying
Well,
anything like that's going to happen, but you know what? There might be a time and a place where certain people, man, I got to tell you, might just have enough. And when when one side starts to just start taking shots at the other side, whether it's a metaphor or actually taking shots, I mean, man, we got to stand up for what we believe. And I'm not saying that as a member of ZERT saying we got to stand up and put a bullseye on anybody, because that is not what I'm saying at all. But
listen,
sometimes we have to stand up.
Right. The best way that we can fight is in November. It is important to get out there, vote, talk to the people around you, make sure that they understand that the vote in November is for the future of this country, and do it smartly. Don't do it based off of emotion. Sure, make sure you are looking at policy over personality, and have conversations with people. And for the love of all that is good, don't use words like libtard when trying to talk to people and have a normal conversation. It is off-putting and it just puts people back on their heels. Have an educated conversation and challenge their misinformation with factual information. And you will shut that conversation down every single time. Trump's a racist. Okay, tell me what he did that makes him racist. Document it. Give me facts. Don't give me Wikipedia. Don't give me some bullshit. Give me facts. He's the single biggest threat to democracy. Okay, how is that? How do you qualify or quantify that statement? And that's it. Let them keep skirting away and deflecting, and you will just direct the conversation into where you want it to go. It's a challenge.
it's
Go ahead.
crazy to even have a conversation with, because like you said, you're not going to change anybody's mind.
I,
And
you
one
know
side
what?
of the aisle can go out there. I mean, you see the videos of Maxine Walters and all these, we need to, if somebody on that side of the aisle gets in your face, you need to punch them in the face. You need to get in their face. You need to, it's like, and that's not the answer.
No,
If
it's
I've
not.
got neighbors I mean, you can hide, you can hang your Biden signs just as much as somebody else can hang up their
Right.
Trump signs. It doesn't mean that people need to be assaulted, and
Right.
you need to be aggressive towards
Yeah.
those individuals, but
Yeah.
it just seems like it's always a one-sided story. And
Yeah.
that's
Very true.
but
Very
and in
true.
saying that, because it's always one-sided, man, you can only push. I mean, how many times are you going to push somebody? And I think that's what they're counting on. They're going to keep pushing and
Maybe.
pushing and pushing until somebody does something, and they're going to say, aha, yep, I
Right.
told you that was going to
Well,
happen.
listen, we've talked
no
about
kid-
this, right? We've talked about this before in the past, and it's funny now that and the when you look at two of the producers of the movie, the end of the Leave the World Behind, when they start talking about the quickest way to take this country down is obviously from within. This is what starts that, and that's a scary thought, and that's where we're going to leave it, with that scary thought, because it's something that I think everybody here needs to kind of let marinate and discuss. This is why it's important to have a community like ours and understand that we're here for each other, and we're able to pass information back and forth, and make sure that all of us are safe and trained and have communication ready should we need it. But it's a scary situation to think that there might be someone in a bunker underground with a bunch of people trying to create chaos that turns our country upside down. And I fear for us as citizens of this country, and I fear for the future of our country if it goes that way. So as always, guys, I end all of the shows the same way, and I want to thank you for listening today, and I hope that you share some of your thoughts and your views in the comments, whether you are listening on Spotify or Apple or watching this on YouTube. I do love to read those. So until next time, you guys stay safe out there. Paul?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about, posting stuff on social media, and we're allowed to have opinions, and we all have just like our Second Amendment right, we have a First Amendment right. But and even though we're discussing those opinions here, we're trying to be subjective, and but at the same time, hey, it's okay. But every now and then, man, just take a step back and just watch the show. Not this show, but watch the circus,
Right.
and let things develop before we go out there and start putting, I don't want to say nonsense on social media, because you just don't know. But yeah, it's very
Right.
important to pay attention to everything around you. And
Yeah.
just like you said, man, we're destroying this great nation from within, and we should all be on the same side. 9/11 brought this nation together, and hopefully events that happen in the future can bring this entire nation together. And I think that should be the ultimate goal.
Yeah. Okay, guys, you stay safe. We'll talk to you soon. ZP002 out.
XP 0311 Delta.